What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. Welcome to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. And today's guest is someone that I've only met probably 3 different times. We haven't known each other very long. We have a lot in common with how the Iron has kind of built our personal infrastructure. We were in Strategic Coach together, and we just got back from Strategic Coach. So Robert Peavey, let's talk about Strategic Coach. Let's start there. What has Strategic Coach done for you in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, I've been in for probably 3 years now, going on 3 years. And it's all about mindset. And I've had coaches before. I've had an executive coach. I've had consultants just over the 27 years we've been in business. And all of those relationships were good and I learned from them, but never have I dealt more with mindset than in Strategic Coach, than the program I'm in now, the Signature program.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing about the leveling up, and I'm good for right now. I've still got a lot of tools to learn and weaving these into daily life. It's not second nature yet that I pull out an impact filter or I pull out a strategy circle and start filling that out when one of my team members has a question. So,
do you have any recommendations as far as how to implement something like that? I know for myself, I have actually told my assistant, if I verbally tell you to do something, send me an impact filter. If I don't fill it out, don't do it, unless it's like an absolute obvious one. But any type of idea, I've had to filter that way because I am a maniac when it comes to chaos and that nature.
Well, the using the tools with the team, I struggle with that, and I reached out to Corey in one of our. Is Corey your program advisor as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so I reached out to Corey and I said, so how can I do this better? And she said, hey, let's do a quick 30, 45 minute with me, you, and your leadership team. And let's go through some of the tools and how to use those. And I had probably 6 of my team, the leadership team plus several of my key members. And we ran through the impact filter. We ran through experience transformer. And it was a really good experience so that they have a little background when I slide or email them one of the tools with all my thoughts on it. They know where it's coming from. So they immediately started using it, especially like Deidre, our training manager. She was like, I'm going to use this at home. I'm going to communicate with my husband like this.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was good. Corey did that for us.
Yeah, it's amazing how. Are you a high quick start?
I'm a 9. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, same. I'm an 8, but nonetheless, us as quick starts are rapid with ideas. We're chaotic.
Froze up a little bit.
It's not clear. There's a lot of things that happen along the way where we often become a liability in our business. At least I do, where I'm more of a liability than an asset. So I can't communicate well because I already see the thing done. I just go from step 1 to 2 to 10 instantly. I miss out some detail. And the impact filter is such a good way to communicate to your team. It's such a beneficial way to get that involvement and get the clarity around it, because I've thrown away a lot of impact filters before I filled them all the way out because it had the clarity in there that it was a dumb idea before I sent it to anybody. So it kind of filters out for you sometimes, at least in my experience, that it's not really something I need to do. after getting some clarity with answering some of the questions. Have you had that experience at all?
You mentioned throwing them away. I rarely do them on paper.
Yeah.
It's I think do you have the Remarkable, the
Yes.
tablet? I've got all my coach tools downloaded to
Oh,
that,
okay.
so
Yeah.
I can fill out an impact filter and just email it direct to somebody.
Yeah.
So
So I don't
uh,
have one of them, but I just have them put in Google Docs, and then I'll just pull a new one out and save it. And
yeah,
that's something similar. Yeah. I'm not very good with paper either, and I can't read my own damn handwriting half the time. So I try
yeah,
to
me
avoid
either.
it. But yeah, I
So,
fill them
but
out and put them back in a folder.
makes sense, and it's really helped to. And I've got a long way to go. I'm looking at the team tools, like workshops where they physically go to a how to do this tool. I haven't pulled the
Hmm.
trigger on that. Kathy Valent calls probably once a month, pestering, "Hey, you ready to do this yet?" No, no, I can't spend the money yet.
Yeah.
So, but working with the team, I haven't had anybody like start using them every single day, but they're in, and they understand what they mean, and that's the language that I speak in. And I gave all my leadership team access to the coach website. They
Hmm.
because they get limited. They don't see everything that I can see, but they have their own
Right.
login. So
There's so many tools in Coach, so many available, and it can be a stressor or overwhelming for me to decipher through them all. And, what I've realized is there's a few of them that I know, impact filter being the obvious one, but it's perfect. I'm going to use it if I can just commit to using that one and then slowly trickle in with the rest of them. Because there's some that I've used, like the Action Accelerator. I've used it a few times, and it has created so much clarity for me on some things. And then there's some of them that I'll probably never use again outside of the workshop where we learn about them.
hmm
But I think
true,
the important thing is there's all these tools in this toolbox, but figure out which ones work for you the best and then let them accelerate your progress.
absolutely.
Yeah. What are your go-to staple ones that you use?
Experience Transformer is my favorite, and Impact Filter is a big one, and Strategy Circle's a big one. I've
Mhm.
recently started using Certainty Uncertainty. What's it
Mhm.
called? Maximizer, Clarifier. I
Yeah.
forget the name of it.
Yep.
So, some that I should be using, but I'm not, are the Pocket Coach.
Hmm.
Another one that I use all the time. I've got this one right here. That's the weekly planner.
Yeah.
I do that every Monday, and get that cranking.
So I had my assistant Dane actually take all of the weekly planner concept and create a document basically for me through my Google Calendar. She tracks my free focus buffer days and all my tasks, and it's a weekly planner that's basically morphed into what works best for me. But she actually keeps track of all of it, and she allocates the free days, with my guidance on that, and then she actually prioritizes my task for me as I let her know what is best fit for that time frame. It has been amazing, Robert, what her taking the organizational chaos away from me has been, and the
Gotcha.
clarity that I have been able to have here recently. Even though Tuesday, the priority awareness and the clarity was kind of my theme starting out, and I clearly don't know what the hell I'm doing because at the end of it, I said, "Well, I'm clearly not clear on very much," but it's helped a lot.
So, does quick question on your relationship with your assistant? What if you've got something on your calendar you don't want to do? Like, okay, because I run my calendar right now. I'm right on the cusp of hiring an EA,
Hmm.
executive assistant, but I'm a little bit hesitant on pulling the trigger there because sometimes it's like, okay, I got something on the calendar, and I'm a ADD entrepreneur. Sometimes I just don't want to do shit. So, or I want to take the afternoon off. So, how do you negotiate with her
You
on?
don't.
Okay,
You
you
just
just
cancel it. Yeah.
okay.
So you're still in charge. It's still
Right.
ultimately it's still your schedule. It's still what you want. There's been times where I mess something up, just cancel it. It's fairly simple. It's all the chaos for me that I have with the different business interests, and then the ability to say no to something has really been clear now, where before I was unaware of how poorly I managed my time.
Mm.
So I was someone that would say yes to opportunity because I was passionate about opportunity, but it wasn't the right time for that opportunity. And just recently I've really been able to look at that and say, Dane, does this fit? And she's like, no way. I'm like,
Okay.
thank you. Because before I would have done it. I think the clarity on what I'm able to do as far as efficiency goes now, I have these tasks I need to accomplish this week. They're a priority that, all attribute to the big picture goal for me for the year or the quarter. And these things are going to get done. And then there's flexibility around the rest. So that 80% we always talk about in coach, 80% of it gets done and accomplished, and 20% of it might not, but that 20% is not detrimental to anything. And so making sure, kind of like the rocks of, in EOS, making sure them big rocks are accomplished and taken care of, and they stay the priority.
Exactly.
I think as visionaries, in quick starts, we just get so wrapped up into everything. Like you said, the ADD thing, like you just go all over the damn place, and the next thing you know, you just want to take a nap because you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Half the exhaustion for me, though, came from lack of organization, a lack of clarity to be efficient. So I was evolving in spite of myself, but now I'm able to be so much more efficient that I see the world different now. I mean, it's been so incredible for me in just a few months. It's been a very short time frame. So it's been really good. I highly recommend it, Robert. I'm telling you, you will not regret it.
Good. I'm talking to two different companies right now, just kind of feeling them out. One in the Philippines, one in India. So
If you have not looked into superpowers,
that's
I
one of
would.
them. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just give it a thumbs up and go for it. That's all I got to say. That's what I have, and it's been incredible,
Nice.
absolutely incredible. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about your daily routine, what health and wellness mean to you. What are things that you need to do to protect your health and your wellness for not only longevity, but for happiness, for your day-to-day joy, and to give the best version of Robert to your family, friends, and people we love?
Sure. I'll talk about the daily routine and the things that I'm interested in now, in going into this next phase of life. I'm 2 years into a 25-year block, and so going through the lifetime extender inside Strategic Coach. I know that
Mm-hmm.
was probably one of the very first sessions you did, and I think it was the first session that I did when I came in, and it basically gave me more years in my life, and it's a mental shift once you do that lifetime extender. And I'm 3 years in, or 2 years into a 25-year block, and I plan on living to 125. So how am I going to do that? Well, I need to get off my ass in a couple of areas and exercise more.
Mm-hmm.
I do love to eat, and definitely one of my passions. And but the health routine kind of starts with getting up early. Haven't always been an early riser, but just as I've evolved with a entrepreneurial mindset, uh, you know, 5 to 5:30 a.m. Boom, I'm up, and the squirrel brain is going, and I'm on to work on stuff. So I'm up, let's say 5:30, and go brush my teeth and feed the animals, and then come up to I'm above the garage. This is my bonus room, so it's my
Mm-hmm.
thinking space. It's got I got a little nap room over there that's off to the side, and it's definitely a nice and quiet up here for the most part. But I come up, I grab my Remarkable. I used to do it on paper, but I've just got reams of journals that
Mm-hmm.
over the years I was just, okay, this is wasteful. Number one. Number two, I'm really not going back to them. It takes too much energy. Man,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that down in 2017, and where's that book? And so I stopped doing that. I've got an indexable thing with the Remarkable, but um, So it's a journal every day that I write down these areas. So the first thing is what was awesome about yesterday. Just three wins, three, nothing negative, and it just kind of it's a look to the past. So what was awesome about yesterday? Write down three bullet points. What am I grateful for right now? What am I feeling about? Whether it's my wife, my kids, my pets, my hobbies, my business. What's going on in my head right now. My forum group. I'm in a forum with five other entrepreneurs that we
Mhm.
meet weekly and go through things. So what am I grateful for? And that's a present view, and then a future view. I write down three things that if happened today, I will consider today a win. And so, if these three things happen, I'm good. So it might be receiving a big check I've been waiting on from a customer. It
Mhm.
might be, this employee one-on-one goes well, or I'm able to add value, to this customer, DOS conversation.
Mhm.
And so it's a look to the past, a look at the present, and then a look to the future with what would make today awesome. And then I write down one affirmation. Lately, it's been I am a private pilot, which I am not yet, but it's important to speak in present tense as if you already have the thing or do the thing
Mhm.
or are the thing. And it's just an affirmation. So I've written in the past, I own X amount of properties, or I do X amount of revenue. It's just that one, whatever's hot on your mind, what I am, and then finish the sentence. And then here comes the kicker. Um, what three things am I procrastinating on? And that's like, oh man, I've been putting on. So it's a reach into your head, going, I know I need to be, doing those
Mhm.
taxes, or I need to call that customer, or address that awkward situation with the employee. It's that what am I procrastinating on that kind of rallies your mind. And then the very last thing on my journal is what do I want? It's just a simple. It doesn't need to be justified at all. Just what do I want? And
Mhm.
usually I write something around the four freedoms that we talk about in Coach:
Mhm.
freedom of time, freedom of relationships, freedom of money, freedom of purpose. And so, but sometimes I throw something in there. What do I want? I want an airplane. Or I want a flamethrower. Or
You
but
want what you want, right? You
yeah.
don't need to explain it to anybody. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that's my journal. And then I always do some kind of exercise in the morning. And I did 75 hard. Have you
Mhm.
heard of
Oh
it
yeah.
with Andy
Yep.
Frisella?
Mhm.
So I did that last year. And so I just haven't gotten back on the horse for phase one, phase two.
Yeah.
And
So
so
did you complete the whole thing last year?
yeah, yeah, it took
Yeah,
me a
good for
couple
you.
of tries. I had to restart
Mhm.
a couple of different times, and the water is the toughest thing for me to get over, because especially on travel days, oh geez, I hate going into an airplane bathroom, but when you're
Mhm.
drinking a gallon of water a day, you got to kind of time it, a lot real early, or yeah, there you go, yeah,
Every day, buddy.
yeah,
Yeah, so just a quick hack for you, just in case you're interested, but $30 $40 Yeti jug. I put aminos for Max Effort Muscle Win. That's the supplement company I'm a shareholder of. So some lemonade aminos, and then I put some type of hydration pack in it. So I normally do like a nun tab,
okay,
and I take ice cube balls from like for like bourbon, so like the round bourbon balls.
hmm,
I'll throw three or four of them in there. I'm telling you what, it's like drinking a gallon of lemonade if you're someone that struggles because of the taste.
yeah,
Not having taste of water. But I get my hydration, my recovery all in that, and then I have it set out first thing in the morning. It's ready. So at night, the night before I do it, so I wake up 3 o'clock, go to the gym, 3:15, 3:30. I'm grabbing that thing on my way out. I don't have to think about nothing. but just a little, like one of them little hacks for me that have really helped me just create a habit and sustain
Makes
it for.
sense.
I mean, I've been carrying a gallon of water around probably since high school, so it's
Yeah,
something I've
yeah,
done for a long time. But it's just I would be lost without it
no doubt.
now. So I
Appreciate it.
love the reflection, the positivity, and then the self awareness that you put in that every day. So that is something that, I'm very optimistic by nature. And it's not all rainbows and unicorns optimism. It's if I can be in a bad mood for no reason, I might as well be in a good mood for no reason. That's how I kind of look at
Yeah.
it. So if I believe it's going to be a good outcome, it probably will be a good outcome because my mindset says that. Same with a bad one. If I address a situation and I think it's going to be a bad outcome, you're probably right. It probably
Yeah.
will be because that's what you're putting your mind to. The manifestation part also, I've done this quite a few times where I have known with the conviction that could not be stopped that this thing would happen. I couldn't explain why. I couldn't explain how, but there was no doubt in my mind that it was going to. And the more that I seen it happen and go through in the motions of it, the more real it became. And then when it did happen, it was just like I had thought in my head. So it's
Hmm.
pretty incredible how much power is in manifesting and seeing this thing being accomplished and speaking on it like it has been accomplished. And so I got to go shift gears real quick because you kind of mentioned it. You're a licensed skydiver
Yep.
and you're a student pilot. So how did you get into this arena? A little bit of
So
adrenaline junkie, maybe.
yeah, well, how it evolved was my father owned a plane and was a pilot in World War II. He was a navigator in World War II, and so he always had that bug. So he always had a plane growing up, and we were like lower, like I guess upper lower class for as far as an income. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe touching on middle income. So. We always had air conditioning, always had a heater, and always had clothes, but that was about it. My first car was a $500 gimme Cutlass from hand me down from my sister,
Mm-hmm.
and but Dad always owned shares in a plane with buddies, and so I grew up around the airports and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
in 2006, I started my pilot training and at the same time, growing a business. And it was on again, off again. I would go, but I was still on my tools back then, and so it was. I would get in a lesson a week, and it just wasn't moving very quick. And but on those lessons, I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool to jump out of this thing? When we were up at 5, 6, 7,000 feet, I think I want to try skydiving. And I got ADD distracted and just went full tilt. And I was going to be, Jeb Corliss grinding the crack, wingsuit guy.
Mm-hmm.
And until I found out how many jumps you need to do before they'll let you put on a wingsuit, and that was 200. And I was like, oh God, that's going to take a long time. So
Yeah.
I got my A license, and I can. Well, if I'm not current right now, but if I would just need to go and do one jump with an instructor, and then I
Mm-hmm.
can do it again by myself. So,
Yeah.
and then kind of started up again with pilot training, and then put it back down. That was like 2011, and then finally, I hired. This is a year ago when my COO was finally like, totally with the reins in his hand of running the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, I got some free time now. I want to go. Let's just finish it. Just finish it. Don't even think about buying a plane. Just finish the private pilot. And I'm regretting it. I've got a freaking letter from the FAA right now I'm trying to deal with because I took my medical in 2006 and I had my class 3 medical and I was fine. But now I've had, I've had colon cancer. I've had, I wear a CPAP now, all this hair's gray.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, geez, now they want to know. I've got to go all back to these doctors, and it's like a freaking odyssey to get my medical again. And
Mm-hmm.
so, anybody that's listening, if you're thinking about getting your pilot's license ever, get your medical while you're early and keep it up because a
Yeah.
real pain in the ass to get it once you
I'm
get
sure it
older.
is. Yeah. So let's shift gears again. And you just kind of mentioned it. So you're a colon cancer survivor,
Yep.
and you mentioned an acquisition that went south for you. So adversity in life is something that we all face. Life is going to be hard no matter what. So I always say, choose your hard. We've all heard that
Yep.
mantra, and we have chosen to live life on our terms as entrepreneurs. And we could live a hard life as an entrepreneur doing what we love and what we're chasing to do, and try to find freedom out of that. Or we could have worked for someone else and been miserable, because we both
Right.
know that that's just not feasible for either one of us, as how we're wired. But let's talk about your adversity in life, the colon cancer, and how have you been able, with your reflection and your daily journaling and whatnot, how have you taken adversity and turned it into something to give you positivity and gratitude for it later in life?
I truly would not be sitting here in this chair talking to you. I would be dead now if my wife hadn't said, Robert, you're you're 47. You have a family history of colon cancer, and
Mm,
excuse me. And my wife said, go get it done. Go get a colonoscopy done. And I'm, oh man, I don't want to do that. That's gonna be, you got to drink all the stuff and,
mm-hmm,
just belly aching. And when I was like, okay, I did it. I was 47. I'm 52 now. I was 47,
mm-hmm.
and I came out of the drug induced coma or whatever they put you in from the colonoscopy when I was 47. My doctor was he's a friend of mine, Joe Galati, and Joe was like, "Hey, buddy, we pulled some cancer out of you." I had no idea. This was just a literal pain in the ass that I had to go deal with this colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any indications. It's like, no, just, oh, by the way, we pulled this out. I believe it's cancer. They sent it off. And, oh, yeah, it was stage 3. And,
Wow.
it was like, oh God, you just don't know. I mean, that's why they
Mm-hmm.
call it the silent killer, because those polyps develop, and then they potentially can metastasize, and you don't even know it, and it's
Yep.
spread all over your body before you've got the first indication. So if any man that's listening to this, if you're 50, go get it done. If you're 40, 40 if you know you've got a family history of it.
Mm-hmm.
35 or 40.
Yeah.
My kids are like, I'm going at 35, so they hadn't hit that yet. But yeah, I'm truly grateful to be here. My wife truly saved my life by just making me go get that colonoscopy.
Isn't that amazing? Everything happens for a reason, man. And I truly believe that. I call it persistent patience. That's the motto that I live my life by. And for particular reasons, I am persistent in my pursuit. I am obsessed and passionate about what I do. I am relentless. I will always be persistent in what I'm doing. My intent is good and my effort is high level effort. But I
Awesome.
am patient with the outcome a lot of time. And I will live with the outcome
Hmm.
because I know that it's not in my control. There are things that I can't control, so I focus on what I can control. But a lot of time, just because you have good intent and a lot of effort doesn't mean that the outcome is going to be what you desire. And
That's a fact.
looking back, I've been able to connect the dots and see a lot of things that I pushed to make happen. And if I would have pushed a little bit more, I would have made it a lot worse. And there's been a lot of time where I was stubborn, like you were, and reluctant to go do something. And
Hmm.
then you finally did it, and my God, was it such an incredible thing that you know you probably cussed the whole time you went, and then you come out and you're like, holy shit, this saved my life.
Hmm. Yep.
And I'm sure as a blue collar worker, a stubborn entrepreneur, visionary,
Yep.
you can relate to that. I'm sure, and especially in that situation where connecting the dots can't be done until all the dots are out there and you look back. But it's amazing sometimes with the gratitude and reflection what you actually can connect, and how things fall into place sometimes the way that they do.
No
So
doubt.
the
No
cancer
doubt.
thing to me is something I think it's near and dear to my heart. My best friend has stage 4 cancer. and he's had that for 5 years. He actually just had his third brain operation a
Wow.
few weeks ago, and he's been told for 5 years he should be dead. And he's just so stubborn and relentless, and he's fighting to get to the gym every day. And the people that had the same, situation that he went through were similar. They didn't make it very long at all. So
Wow.
he's a fighter. He's a stubborn ass too. So there ain't no doubt. But he's recovering again. But
Yep.
he refuses to give up, and there's something to be said about that.
Absolutely. That 5 years on that. I've got a family member with glioblastoma, and it's the same thing. She's still fighting. She's still,
Yeah.
it was, that's what took. When I heard that diagnosis, I knew that the president of MD Anderson passed away from glioblastoma. And if the president of MD Anderson
Hmm.
couldn't beat it, then it's really serious. So, but man,
Hmm.
she's made it way farther than most, most of the folks her age and her health would have. So
Hmm.
she's a fighter as well. So
Yeah.
congrats to your buddy. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Something to be said for anyone that has cancer and fights through it. Good for you, and keep fighting. Don't
Yep,
ever give up. That's all I can say.
absolutely.
It's something that I hope I never have to run into, but never give up. I think that's the best thing to say about that, because you just never know, what you can do for yourself and the people around you, and the impact you can have on the world by not giving up.
That's a fact.
So, yeah. So let's talk about personal development. It was mentioned, I think, in our last coach. It was called hustle porn.
Hustle
You know,
porn. Yeah.
and when
Yeah.
I heard that, I felt like I had just been smacked across the face.
Yeah.
I am a avid student of educating myself and learning. I'm so obsessed with it, Robert. Sometimes it's detrimental,
Hmm.
and I'll let you relate to this or speak on this. But how many times have you had such a great idea, and then within a couple hours or a couple days, that great idea kind of went to the parking lot because you are looking at some other great idea, because you just are continuing to fill your brain full of great insight, but you just flood the insight with not taking action, and you just get like this weight of brain dump that you just need to kind of purge. And it's amazing that someone can think that personal development can be overdone too much.
It can, and but at the same time, I mean, you and I are both kind of wired with the ADD gene, and we need to have constant input to not be bored.
Hmm.
And so if I've something that's helped me, because I've been in the hustle porn game for decades, and I mean, literally when I was thinking of starting a business, I was a service technician working on petroleum and gas
Hmm.
pumps, and I was so I would drive around for 4, 5, 6 hours a day sometimes, and so I started buying cassette tapes with Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy,
Hmm.
uh, Paul and Sarah Edwards, I think, were the mindset people about um, what was it? Self-employment,
Hmm.
the paycheck mentality versus the profit mentality, and so I've been books, and when it developed in CDs, I always had something going on. I
Hmm.
treated that like an investment, because I said, all right, I knew I wasn't going to college. My parents didn't have the money. I didn't like school that much. I didn't, I barely made it out of high school just because I was lazy, and I didn't like math, man. When did they fucking start putting letters in my math, with algebra? That
Yeah.
it was a bane of my existence. Barely made it out of high school, and I knew that I wasn't going to college. So I kind of treated the cassettes and the CDs that I would purchase as, okay, I've got my income's going up a little bit as an employee. Let's go to college and start, picking the cassettes that I'd heard, And actually started getting them from the library as well, checking them
Mm.
out, but buying most of them. But I find when there's something really poignant, I was like, oh my God, I got to share that, because I'm in a mastermind group, and I've got 5 other guys that are wired the same as you and I got to tell somebody about it, because that's how a lot of entrepreneurs vocalize ideas. If they're just swimming around in our head, they're not going to stick.
No.
And ideas can't be fleshed out unless you put them out into the air and watch them float around, or run it by somebody. And
Hmm.
we think through verbalization. So I'll very quickly tell somebody about that concept that I learned. And I've done it in the past. I don't do it like I should, but when I finish a book, I do an overview of it, in Google Docs or
Hmm.
voice texting, or whatever, and then send it out to my buddies in my forum.
There's a lot of power in that. I used
Yeah.
to do something very similar. I would print a summary off and make sure that all the key takeaways I had. I'm an audio person myself, and I had the same thing you did. I skipped the happy hour on Tuesday after a while. When I really wanted to make a change in my life, I was about 20 years old, and same thing. I didn't go to college. In my mind, I wanted to go make $20,000 by working instead of spending $20,000, and I figured, worst case scenario, by 21, instead of having all this debt for college that I'm going to flunk out of, more than likely, I'll have debt for a house. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened. But it
Yep.
really changed whenever I realized that the environment I was in was not the environment that I wanted to stay in. I had to change my environment by changing myself first.
Mm-hmm.
So, look yourself in the mirror kind of deal and just say, you know what? I'm not going where I'm supposed to go. I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not happy with the progress or lack thereof. So what can I change to get better? And the first thing is always personal development.
Yep.
And I always tell people, hey, start with success habits. So like the compound effect by Darren Hardy would be like my first recommendation to anybody. And it just establishes these success criteria that
Mm-hmm.
are foreign to most people, but to us, it's something we forgot about and we just do as instinct. But when it's introduced at a base level, just having them success habits established and learning and just understanding that, I don't know how it was for you, but I never applied myself in school because I wasn't interested. But I thought reading books was a crock of shit. I thought there ain't no value in books. It wasn't until I became an adult that I actually learned the value. But it was because the books that were presented to me through school had no value to me.
Right.
It wasn't until we got out of school that it's like, oh my God, this is incredible. I can learn this out of this book. What else is possible? And similar to you, I'm all audio. That was the big change for me. So, I would have an hour and a half one way to a job site every morning and then an hour and a half back every night. That's 3 hours of audiobook that I can listen to.
Yep.
And it expedited that 20 to 22-year-old person that I was lost and had no direction at all. And at 22 to 23 years old, I was running crews of 5, 10, 15 people on some of our bigger projects. And then that's when I set out the goal to buy R&R Pipeline by the time I was 30. And it was because of personal development. I
Mm-hmm.
worked harder on myself than I did really at my job because I knew that I had to develop me and the rest would fall into place. And man, it was life changing for me. I'm a huge advocate of personal development.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I lost audio there for a second. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Um, so I had a very similar experience with, personal self-development. I had to pull myself up, with my bootstraps.
Hmm.
Knew that I wasn't going to college, and I was last Wednesday, I spoke to 100 high school kids, and 5 classes of 20. And I was kind of beating my head up against the wall, and what should I, prepping for it, because I do it every year, and I try to morph it just to kind of see what rings true with them, and I'm still working on it because I'm so far apart from
Yeah.
high schoolers to working on business. But I was like, the I posed the question to the kids. I was like, well, what do you think you can do that will put you above your peers, like right now? What class can you take that you can pay $100 for, that will put you head and shoulders above the people that don't have it? And it was like they were looking around the room. I don't know. Toastmasters. Join Toastmasters and go to Toastmasters meetings. And of course, they have some that meet in the evenings, but learn how to public speak, learn how to communicate.
Mm.
And oh my gosh, I mean, that immediately propelled me when I was, back when I was working for somebody else.
Mm.
And they started making fun of me. I started getting called a yes man and a supervisor's pet, and because I could take a directive from a customer, turn around and communicate it to a team, and but I just let that bounce off of me.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get made fun of, and oh, you're sucking up, you brown noser. No, I'm just doing the job that I was asked to do,
Right.
and that's how you move up. But that's what I was telling those kids: learn how to public speak. That's one thing you can control right now.
Yes. And that is so powerful. This podcast is, believe it or not, something that came from fear. So, my two biggest fears in my life were taking my shirt off in front of other people and having to read in front of other people or public speak or present anything from a young age. I mean, third grade, I couldn't read very well. So,
Hmm.
I had a tutor and I was overweight. I was a fat kid that got picked on and beat up for being chunky. And like, it's always been this thing. So, I wasn't confident in myself. I couldn't read good. So if I had to be up in front of a classroom of people, I mean, I would be shaking nervous. And even up until a few years ago, I just had this like ingrained in my head, you don't want to be in front of these people. You don't want to take your shirt off. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And then probably the last couple of years, I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't care about people's opinions anymore, you know. But the real shift for me was have an undeniable understanding about my story. So I've had to tell a few people, that kind of lost in their way, or my buddy that has cancer that I just mentioned. I talked to him the other day, and I told him, write your story
Hmm.
and then learn how to tell it. Everybody's story is incredible. Everyone has a journey and an incredible story. The ones that can't tell it, though, can't help other people. They can't find value to the marketplace. We are able to tell our story and communicate it in a way that we can inspire and help other people because of adversity and the things that we learned. And it's not what happens to us, it's what happens for us and what we
Hmm.
do with the adversity and the situations in life and the impact that we can have on other people to help them expedite their journey. And just like your high school speaking, which kudos to you also, that's incredible that you're doing that, giving back to your community. I'm sure trying to help out other people, because I wish that the 16-year-old Jacob Emery would have had me come speak to him,
Hmm.
and I actually got the opportunity as well to go speak at the school that I went to, that my wife went to, my kids go to now,
Cool.
to a aspiring leadership class. And I've went 5 or 6 times already this year and spoke to them. And the amount of gratitude that I have for that opportunity was so incredible, because I was in that same classroom. So 16-year-old me was asleep in class.
Hmm.
I leave school that day after I get woke up by the bell. I leave school. I hop in my truck, and the truck, pulling out of the school, R&R Pipeline was actually out in front of the school that day, digging in a gas line, and I knew who the people were, and I had this vivid like gut instinct, and I don't know if I said it out loud or not, Robert, but I just had this internal like twist. I'm going to own that company one day. This can be
Hmm.
my company one day. I didn't speak about that moment for 12 years ever, and when I go back to the school just a couple months ago to speak to this leadership class, I walk into the school with the same gut feeling, with no idea why, that I had at 16 years old. And I thought I was
Yeah.
going to throw up. I
Really.
walk, I walk into the school. You'll see why. But I walk into the school, and as I'm walking into the classroom, or to that classroom, I start feeling like I'm going to throw up, dude. Couldn't figure it
Huh.
out. I walk into the classroom, I go sit down in the classroom and I had deja vu, like really bad. And I'll be damned, Robert, if I wasn't sitting in the same seat that I was at 16 years old when I had that, when I got woke up by the
Yeah.
bell and had that vivid image of this is going
Wow.
to be my company one day.
That's
Almost 20
awesome.
years later, and it connected the dots. And I thought, my God, this is absolutely incredible.
Nice.
And I'm going to tell that story in my book. And you can't make it up. And that's what the power of that communication is. And to be able to relay that message is so incredible.
Gotcha. I believe I've got a book in me as well. I've started the chapter outline, and I'm waiting for AI to get good enough where I can just jam all that stuff in there. It'll fill in the gaps. I can proofread it.
It might be good enough now. Just figuring out how to navigate and how to use it might be the other thing.
Maybe.
But so, last thing, and I'll let you go. We talk about unique ability. We talk about strengths and weaknesses and freedom. What's your unique ability, and then what does freedom mean to you?
You know, I've been going through this right here, the
Mm-hmm.
unique ability
Yep.
2.0. And, I've got it boiled out, but because I'm ADD, it kind of changes by the day sometimes.
Understood.
Yeah, yeah. So, my unique ability. Well, let's see. Let me start with the freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing and the one that I write most often is freedom of time.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've developed the company and the people, I've hired some great people. We've developed internally some great people. I've got some multi-decade employees, since we started in
Mm-hmm.
'97. So I've got some long-time employees, and they're fantastic. But some that we've hired some talent from outside the company. But so I just pulled it up right here. This is my synthesis on
Mm-hmm.
unique ability, but it's learner, low ego, promotes growth, compassionate, and problem solver. So that's my unique abilities there, and I'm still working through the rest of this book. And but you ask about the freedoms. The one that rings true the most, like I mentioned, was a freedom of time,
Mm-hmm.
because it's time is a valuable commodity. And even though Strategic Coach has given me another 75 years, just in the perception of when I believe that I'm going to die in those extra years, it's taken, and how Dan talks about uh, the R word, retirement. How entrepreneurs shouldn't retire. It's because that's when the universe starts calling the parts back.
Yep.
So I have declared that I'm not going to retire ever. I'm going to, the company may morph, whether it's keeping it for a lot longer or selling it to, leadership team members or employees, or doing an ESOP. Those are all things that I'm exploring right now.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
and I believe that private equity is a bad word. Private equity is really tearing apart my industry, and
Same. Yeah.
it's
It's same here.
making
Yeah.
it's making it into a money making machine with no passion.
Yep.
I've
No passion or
seen,
purpose, for people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're just a number. Not in the first iteration, because private equity comes in and, oh, we're going to keep all the managers in
Mm-hmm.
place, and we're going to keep the same company culture, and then they buy company 3 and 4 and 5, and then they do the roll up, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what private equity is designed to do: is scale them up, eliminate redundancies,
Mm-hmm.
fire up the EBITDA, and then sell it to somebody else that's going to
Mm-hmm.
roll it up, make it.
Do the
And
same thing. Yeah.
it's taken so much um, kind of mom and pop mentality out of
Mm-hmm.
businesses. So yeah, we could do a whole another
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
I'm pretty freaking passionate about
Yeah.
how evil private equity is, but I'm not going to sell the company to somebody that didn't build it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, freedom of time has been the biggest. I kind of went down rant rabbit trail there.
Yeah.
So did
That's
I
all
answer
good.
your question?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it tied right into our coach session, looking and addressing the four different freedoms and then what priorities should be out of each one. That was really enlightening to me because I oftentimes lose that priority on the different freedoms. And
Hmm.
so, I almost looked at it as a reminder that all my goals need to have a goal set around a freedom each year of, improvement of relationships and then the time that I have to spend in them relationships. And it was a great reminder about what the true end goal is. And to the retirement thing, I'm never going to retire. Why would you retire when you do what you love? I'm
Yep.
just gonna I'm just gonna do less of the stressful stuff and less of the things that I don't want to do. And but now because of understanding what the end looks like, it doesn't change a lot from what it is now. It's just
Hmm.
continue to do more of it, more of what I'm great at, and less of what I don't want to do.
Right.
And it just kind of that I evolve in my unique ability, kind of like what you will. And then if it's not in that, then we won't do it. But retirement to me, there's no way in how I could retire.
Yeah.
I know I'm still very young, but it's like that concept. I can say that I could find other things to do with passion, but I'm not going to sit around on my ass and not do anything. I'll still be at the gym at 4 a.m. I don't care if I'm 60 or 70. You still
There you
catch me
go.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get out of people's way. I'm still in a few people's way right now.
Hmm.
That that I'm still on the leadership team, and I still do the. I don't lead the L10 meetings, but I'm at the L10 meetings. So I've still got some evolving to do.
Hmm.
As CEO, and as eventually replace myself as CEO and move to chairman emeritus or
Yeah. Stay in his
stay.
box. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but my job description right now is big relationships and signing the checks, finance,
Mm.
part of it, and
Yeah.
being the company culture coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a visionary, and that's my role at R&R Pipeline. Coaching and culture is a big part of it. And
Yep.
I just transitioned fully into that role here recently, at the beginning of this year. But big ideas, big relationships, big sales for the company, building the brand and everything else. It's all part of it. And it's what we're meant to do. There is zero doubt in my mind that I am finally in my place now. It
Good.
only took 15 or so years, but overnight success, right? But
Exactly.
but it's been amazing to transition, and the appreciation I have for life in general now is so much greater. So, Robert, I appreciate your time, man. This is absolutely awesome.
Yes,
Um,
sir. Glad to do it.
are there any mentions that you'd like to throw out there where the people can find you? Talk about PumpTex real quick if you want. Anything you want to put out there?
Yeah. So we're at www.pumptex.com. That's our website. We've got a great social media company that handles all that stuff. They are Blue Dress out of Knoxville, and
Hmm.
they uh, they handle all that. I'm no social media whiz, and matter of fact, uh, I like to look at Instagram, and that's about it. I do
Same.
have a Facebook, and because they got some pretty funny shit on there, and but yeah, we've got a social media company that handles all the posts on LinkedIn, and they do that for us, and I guess that's it. I would like to do another podcast because we touched on a couple of things. Um, Company culture. How do you build
Mm.
company culture?
You tell me
And
when. Let's
uh,
do it because it's so powerful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, how do you? What are the building blocks of stickiness, employee stickiness,
Hmm.
and we call it. I'll give you a little teaser here. I call it controlling the pillow talk. And because when that guy comes in
Hmm.
from work, his boots are muddy, leaves them on the porch, he's stinky, sweaty, doesn't have time for a shower. Man, I just want to hit the bed. And if the perception of the spouse of the company is good, Because the words are usually the same. I want to quit this fucking job. God damn, I want to do something in an office, or
Yes.
this sucks. If the perception of the spouse is positive, it's like, you better not quit that job. Our benefits are fantastic,
Yeah.
and they do all this stuff. Or if it's negative, they're like, yeah, you should quit. Go for more money. So controlling the pillow talk it would be a good topic for the next podcast.
Well, I think there's definitely, I think we definitely do it because this is something I'm very passionate about. And I call it, the journey to your next destination, finding joy in the journey and not having destination disease. How many guys go home and are all covered in shit with a bad attitude and miserable because they don't see a better future for themselves? They just think that's the end goal. And so I reference, if you tell someone to hop in their car and just start driving, where the hell are you going? But if you give them a destination and GPS coordinates to get there, they got something to look forward to and a path to do it. So much power in that. We're going through this transition now between workforce development programs, career path development, and everything else, and really trying to enhance and overhaul the culture altogether. So let's definitely get back on the mics for that, because there's so much quality there and so much depth in the layers of that. We could be on here for hours. So
no doubt,
Robert, I appreciate your time. I'm grateful to have met you. You are now a friend of mine, no matter what you say. And if you don't like it, you can get the hell over it, because I'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah, sounds good.
So,
iron sharpens iron.
There you go. In the Iron Infrastructure Podcast, Robert, thanks for joining us. We're out of here.
Glad to be here.
This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com.